Hey guys, Reece here from Engadget Productions. Yesterday, Monday the 13th of June 2016, Apple hosted its annual WWDC event for 2016. In this event, they announced some great updates to iOS, the now macOS, watchOS and tvOS. And today, I'm going to give you my views and opinions on everything that was announced. So for me, the event was kind of twofold. At the beginning, it was a bit dull, not too exciting. The updates were good, but they weren't anything groundbreaking. And as we moved on, the event seemed to get more and more exciting. So the first thing Apple spoke about was watchOS. Now, I am an Apple Watch user, so any update is welcome, because at the minute the Apple Watch is good, but it's not brilliant. And the first thing that they announced was watchOS 3. Now, in watchOS 3, the big feature that they were kind of touting from the beginning was how much quicker the watch is going to be, as apps will be allowed to load content in the background and will be allowed to work in the background, so that when you press the app, everything is there waiting for you. Now, that, for me, I think is really, really needed. On stage, they quoted that an app that they were using launched 7 times faster using watchOS 3. Now, I'm not 100% convinced by that, to be honest. If it launches quicker, that's brilliant, but I'm not 100% convinced that it will launch that much quicker. And I think it is needed. An Apple Watch speed increase is needed. At the minute, apps don't really launch that well, if at all, on the Apple Watch. For example, I use Uber on my Apple Watch, and the other day I launched the app, and I was waiting for the app to launch, and in the time that it took for the watch to launch the app, it would have been quicker for me to just pull my phone out of my pocket and just launch it from there. So any speed increase is definitely warranted, needed, and really, really wanted. The next thing that they announced from this was that when you now press the side button on the Apple Watch, you will now get a dock, what they're calling the dock. For me, this is exactly the same as the multitasking window on iOS. It will allow you to switch between recently opened apps, recently used apps, and in this dock, the apps will be live. Now, I thought that was really, really cool because in the multitasking feature on iOS, you get a kind of still freeze frame of the apps. But in the dock on the Apple Watch, they're going to be live. So you can see, for example, your timer, and your timer will be moving in the dock waiting to press into it. And I think that is really, really cool. My worry with this, and a lot of things that I'm about to talk about, is battery life on the Apple Watch. So the Apple Watch battery life isn't great at the moment. Yes, at the minute, I can probably get up to 1.5, 2 days if I'm not using it that much. If my watch is doing all this stuff for me now, this more than it's doing at the moment, will that mean a decrease in battery life? And I really hope Apple has addressed that. They didn't seem to mention that too much at the keynote, which is kind of like, have they actually fixed the battery life, or is the battery life still a problem, or is it even more of a problem now, you know? The next thing that they announced was Control Center, where you swipe up from the bottom, and you get all your little preferences, and very much like Control Center in iOS. Now, we do have something vaguely similar to this at the minute in terms of the glances, where at the moment you can get all your different preferences by swiping up. This seems to be a lot more feature-rich, though, and it is much appreciated. Another thing that they mentioned was quicker replies in messages. Now, this was really, really cool, I think. What they've basically done is, rather than having to press into your text and then press reply, all they're doing is cutting the steps out. So that basically you look at the message, the reply button is straight there, and you can reply straight away. Now, something that they have announced, which I think is probably one of the coolest features they've announced for watchOS 3, is a new way to reply to messages called Scribble. And what Scribble allows you to do is to draw the letters of a word onto your Apple Watch, and basically use this to type in messages into Apple Watch. They said, for example, when you can't dictate, it's easier to just just draw in the letters on your watch, make the word, and then send that way. I think that's really, really cool. They did mention that works in English and Chinese. My question there is, what about other languages? So, is it limited to English and Chinese? Are they working on other languages? We'll see. In terms of watch faces, they announced that they will have a Minnie Mouse watch face. Now, Megan from Engadget Productions will absolutely love that. For me, a bit of a gimmick. Probably fun to some people, but not the sort of thing I'd leave on my Apple Watch. You can choose a variety of colours for it, you can change a dress, and they were very, very big on bigging that one up. They also announced a new activity watch face, and around the clock it showed the activity rings. Obviously, having it on the watch face probably motivates you a lot more. They also announced a new numerals watch face, which is very simplistic, and it was just about seeing the time, seeing it simple in an interactive way. They also mentioned that now switching watch faces is easier, as you just swipe from edge to edge to switch between watch faces without having to go into any kind of menu. You just literally just swipe on your Apple Watch and it'll swipe watch faces. And I think that'll be cool because people will then switch watch faces more. And I think this is kind of what Apple's saying. I'm a bit disappointed still that they haven't opened this up to third-party developers. I think third-party developers could make some really, really cool watch faces. And so it's disappointing that they haven't allowed developers to do that. They also announced some new apps for the Apple Watch. They announced Reminders and Find My Friends. Again, featured on the iPhone for a while. I'm surprised they weren't on the Apple Watch to start with. I had to actually check because I thought, really? Is that not on the Apple Watch already? Apparently it wasn't, but they're very nice, very simplistic, very friendly for the Apple Watch interface. So I do like the look of those apps. Just scrolling up on the notes. So in terms of other features for watchOS, they also announced there'll be SOS on the watch. Basically, what this will allow you to do is if you press and hold the side button, wherever you are in the world, it will find the local emergency number and will dial it for you. And I think that's really good in emergency situations or things where you really need help. This seemed quite extensive. It was not been touched upon too much in other recap videos. But when you press the button, it will first dial the emergency services. Then it will notify your emergency contact with your location and a message. And then it will show your medical ID. So that's really, really cool. I'm a big fan of that. You can definitely see that being useful. So the next thing that Apple announced was activity sharing for the Apple Watch. What this is, it's a great way to encourage competition and comparison of activity between friends and family who also own Apple Watches. It uses the activity app, and what happens is you swipe to the right on activity app, and you get all of your friends and family's activities and performances, and you can compare and compete with them. It gives you information on their steps, the time that they've spent working out, the time that they spent exercising, and then allows you to compare this with yours. I think this is very useful. I think it's cool. I think it encourages more activity, which in turn encourages a healthy lifestyle, and I really think that's what the Apple Watch is about. This app also builds in communication with the people that you're competing with. You can send them messages of support, such as well done, keep going, or you can send them messages of slightly more competitive in nature, such as you're going down. I think was the example that they used in the keynote. And I think it's all very cool. Like I say, it encourages a healthier lifestyle, and I really think that's what Apple's kind of positioning the Apple Watch as a kind of a key health and fitness device. The issue being here, not many people own Apple Watches. If your friends don't own Apple Watches and so they don't use the Apple Watch app, you can't really compete with them. And so it might be one of those features like the sending of heartbeats and drawings to Apple Watches at the moment, which you know is there, but you can't really use. Another great feature that they've added to do with activities is making the activity app more usable and accessible for wheelchair users. Basically what Apple has done is they've done a lot of research into the way in which wheelchair users exercise and the way in which they move. So instead of, for example, time to walk, like the Apple Watch reminds you now, it will say time to roll. They've also built it into activity tracking, which I think is really cool. You know, it's great that these users aren't excluded, and it really makes the Apple Watch more accessible to them. Another feature that they've included in the Apple Watch, and something that I'm quite interested in myself, is an app called Breathe. And what Breathe is it's an app which tracks deep breathing exercises. They spoke a lot on stage about how this kind of helps people with de-stressing and kind of getting through everyday stress. This is what the Breathe app is all about. It encourages you to do deep breathing activities once a day, and will also send you reminders about this. The app will guide you through the deep breathing, so it will either give you an on-screen representation if you like to do deep breathing with your eyes open, so it will give you like a pulse on the screen that you follow to breathe, or you can do it via soft vibrations from the haptic feedback on the Apple Watch, so you can do it also with your eyes closed. This is quite interesting to me because I know, particularly within academia, a lot of the academic support we get encourages this sort of thing when coping with, for example, exam stress, assessment stress. So it's definitely an app that I'm going to be checking out. They also mentioned a lot of things to do with developers. Now, I'm not a developer myself, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. Essentially, they announced a lot of different APIs which developers can use in the Apple Watch apps. They will be able to use Apple Pay. Fitness apps will be able to work in the background and do fitness tracking and health tracking in the background, which is cool. And inline video, audio and pictures, which I think is very, very cool. So the watchOS upgrade, quite big. I'm quite impressed. It's nothing groundbreaking, it's nothing exciting. The developer preview available today, and there will be a free upgrade available in autumn. Next, they moved on to tvOS. Now, I have got an Apple TV, and for me, the updates announced here were so disappointing. I expected so much more, to be honest, for tvOS. They touted that over 6,000 apps now available in the App Store, and that's become available in 7 months, which is cool. They talked about some new apps, particularly for the American markets. They talked about Sling, they talked about Fox Sports Go, where you can watch 4 videos at the same time, which I thought was impressive. If they could bring that over to some British apps, that'd be so cool, you know. They showed on the screen you could have 4 sports games on at the same time. That'd be so cool. Imagine being able to like watch football and something else. I know my parents would love that. They spoke about Molotov, a French media app. They spoke about some cool games, such as Minecraft, Sketch Party. Sketch Party for me, I thought was quite cool. They had it was like Pictionary for the Apple TV. You drew a picture on your iPhone, it showed on the TV, and you spent time guessing what it was. I thought that was cool. The next kind of big feature that they spoke about for the Apple TV was related to the Apple TV Remote app for iOS. Basically, what's happening here is they're allowing you to do anything that you can perform on the new Apple TV remote on the Apple Remote app. So you can have access to the microphone, the remote, the kind of accelerometer, the keyboard. Particularly cool there, the accelerometer for gaming. And I thought that was quite useful. Now, that sounds groundbreaking for Apple users. I'm also a Fire TV user, and I have one of these. And I do know that these features have existed for the Fire TV for such a long time. So I feel like Apple is playing a bit of catch up there, but again, it's nice to have. It's nice to have. Then they announced some Siri upgrades. When they first mentioned Siri in the keynote, I was like, wow, come on, we're going to get some really cool features here. At the minute, Siri on Apple TV is so far behind, in my opinion, is so far behind the iPhone and iPad Siri. But no, the updates weren't very big. I thought we might get a Siri voice in Apple TV. I thought we might get some kind of features that the iPhone has that the Apple TV doesn't. In my ideal world, there'd be a kind of crossover, so I could say to my Apple TV, text so-and-so, and it would send on my iPhone. But no, we didn't get anything like that. What we actually got was actually a lot smaller. We had the ability to search movies based on topics via Siri. So, for example, I can say, find me comedies based in the 80s, and it will find that. We also had a feature introduced where you can search YouTube using Siri. Again, it's a cool feature, but it's not anything amazing. And also, particularly for US users, there's now a feature called Live Tune-In. What that means is you have all these TV channel apps, rather than having to go into each app and press play and press OK and press all these options, you can just say to Siri, play Fox Sports, and it will play the channel. Again, that's really, really cool. The next feature also kind of adds to this, single sign-on. When you have all these different apps, so you have, for example, Fox, you have PBS, you have Netflix, you have whatever apps you have, you can sign in once, and this will kind of sign in across all your services. Now, the question I have here, I kind of have 2 questions. My first question is what happens if you have different logon credentials for each service. So I use different email addresses, different passwords, for example. What happens there? And will we have an option to sign in individually? And also, what happens if you, God forbid, share your family's Netflix account or your friend's Netflix account? Is that still going to work, or is there cutting down on that? We'll see. I hope it's an option. I hope it's not a compulsory. And again, it's great for US users where the Apple TV really does have some great channels. I hope, eventually that these kind of channels come across to the kind of international markets, particularly here in the UK. But that's not happened yet. They also introduced a dark mode for tvOS, which is useful if you're watching the TV in the dark. I thought this was a sign that we were going to get dark mode for iOS and macOS as well, but no, that didn't happen. Ah well. We also got the ability to auto-download apps across TV and iPhone, so if I download an app on my iPhone and it's available on the Apple TV, it will pop up on the Apple TV. My question there also is, if I download an app on my Apple TV and it's available on my iPhone, will that work as well? I hope so. So they also announced some developer tools here. Again, not going to go into too much detail. They announced Replay Kit and Photo Kit and Home Kit. A developer preview available today, and it'll be available again. They thought they're available in the summer. Again, the update was okay. It's cool. What I find is international markets aren't really catered for as such here at the minute. I find the Apple TV in the UK to be a little bit dull. Yes, it's great for Apple services, such as Apple Music and YouTube and other things like that, but it's not. We don't have a lot of content over here yet, and that isn't Apple's fault. That's more to do with the content providers not making apps. But I hope that gets fixed soon, because I can see a lot of these features that they've announced that work really well in the US working well over here if the services were made available for us over here. Then for me, the event became exciting as we started talking about the 2 big updates today to OS 10 and iOS. So starting with OS 10, interestingly here we had a name change to macOS, and I can kind of see why. They mentioned that OS 10's been used for 15 years, it's done them really well, but now that they've got, I think, what was described as some younger sibling OSs, we've got iOS, we've got tvOS, we've got watchOS, and so OS 10 sounds a bit out of place. So what they've done basically is just renamed macOS 10 to macOS. I think that's nice simple name change, makes it simpler. So with this, they introduced macOS Sierra. And to be honest, I really am impressed with this release. They kind of mentioned several key features, and we'll look over those now. So the first feature that they introduced was continuity. And now continuity has existed already across devices. As they describe it, it's a secure peer-to-peer way to move from one device to another. So what it allows you to do is it allows you to work from one application, for example, on your phone, and move to your Mac and continue on the Mac version of that application. That's worked really well. I've done it with Pages, I've done it with email. I do like that feature. And what they've introduced today only makes that feature better. So the first continuity feature that they've introduced today is auto unlock. Now, what that allows you to do is, rather than going up to your Mac and typing in your password and like I said in the keynote, sometimes typing it in wrong and then typing it in again. If you're wearing an Apple Watch, and I presume with your iPhone as well, you'll be able to unlock your Mac because you have those devices unlocked on you. I find that really cool. You know, I'm an Apple Watch user. If I can unlock my Mac because my Apple Watch is unlocked, that is so cool. Then they announced the universal clipboard. Now this really did impress me, probably because I'm a geek, but it really did impress the geeky side of me. It allows you to copy and paste between devices. Now, that doesn't sound like anything major to anybody who's not kind of really into this sort of stuff, but I think it really will be. They mentioned that you can copy images, text and video from one device and paste it to another. But I think that's so cool, you know. You go to your phone and you copy an image, you go to the Word document you've got open on your computer, you press paste and it goes. That, to me, is so impressive, and I'm really looking forward to kind of using that. I think it'll be really useful, particularly when it comes to things for universities, such as my dissertation. They also announced some upgrades for iCloud Drive. Now, the first thing they kind of showed off there was that they've got 10 billion documents in iCloud Drive at the moment. Again, that sounds impressive. I'd like to see how many Dropbox has. But the thing that they're introducing here is your documents and desktop folder will be available also via iCloud Drive. They mentioned, you know, people do save things in the iCloud Drive, but more often than not, they save it in documents or desktop. And these two folders will now be available automatically on iCloud Drive. I think that I really do like that. The next feature they announced was optimized storage. On a Mac, sometimes if you use a lot of storage, you'll get the disk is almost full message. What they're going to do here is they're going to make room for new files on your computer by moving older ones to the cloud. Now, the issue that I see with both this and with your documents and desktop being available in the cloud automatically is you have limited iCloud storage, and they charge for iCloud storage. To me, this might be just another way of getting us to pay more to them, getting them to pay more for iCloud storage. I hope you can turn it off. I think people will be very annoyed if you can't. But yeah, it's a cool feature. You know, I do pay for extra iCloud storage. I can see it being useful to me, but for some people who don't want to pay Apple for the extra iCloud storage, I can see it being a bit of an annoying issue for them. They've also introduced a feature on the Mac where they'll automatically delete files you'll never use again, such as caches, to clear memory up. Again, I think this is very, very useful. A lot of people don't know how to clear caches. You know, they don't know which ones are safe to delete. If the computer is doing this for you, that's cool. You'll get more memory. And I think particularly as Macs are getting smaller hard drives now, you know, there's a time when 750 gigabyte, a terabyte were so easily available on Macs. But you know, with more and more flash-based Macs now, with smaller hard drives, these features are really, really useful. The next thing that they announced was Apple Pay. Now, Apple Pay, obviously, we've all used across our iOS devices and our Apple Watches, and I use it and I like it a lot. They've introduced that Apple Pay will now work on the web. I imagine this is a Safari exclusive feature. It will use iPhone Touch ID and Apple Watch security also to allow transactions across the web. They talked about how Apple Pay is available in 9 countries, and many merchants have already signed up to use Apple Watch on the web. The issue that I'm seeing here is I'm a bit sceptical about how many retailers will actually support this, because there are so many payment options already available to them, and it's extra work for them to make Apple Watch available on their site. Obviously, Apple Watch will be exclusive to Safari, and I presume just on the Mac. I might be wrong here, but if that's the case, then it's a lot of work for them to do for a very small amount of users. I don't know whether we'll see this in mass or not. Hopefully we do, but we'll see. The next thing they announced was tabs across all apps. Didn't really have much of a feeling about this. It's cool, but at the end of the day, it's not anything major. You know, it's useful. They mentioned that tabs will be available across third-party apps without developers having to do much work. If we can get tabs in Final Cut, just imagine the amount of kind of editing you could get done in there. I would really, really enjoy that. They also announced picture-in-picture videos. So, for example, you'll be able to have you'll be able to pop a video out of the site and overlay it onto whatever else you're doing, including full-screen applications. A bit like kind of how it works on the iPad Pro. Again, very, very cool. I like that. And the major big feature that got announced here, and they kind of, on stage, they kind of didn't announce it straight away, and I think people were thinking, oh god, is it not going to come out? You know, we've been waiting for it for so long with Siri. And to be honest, I'm surprised Siri didn't come to the Mac years ago. You know, it was announced for the iPhone 5 years ago, I believe, 4 or 5 years ago. So if it only comes to the Mac now, it's a little bit surprising, but I'm glad that we've got it. They mentioned on the Mac how Siri will be able to do some really kind of advanced file searches. So you'll be able to say when the document was created, what was the document about, if it was sent by someone, if it was sent to you by email, who it was sent from. You can search that in Siri, and then when you've performed the search, you can also pin the results to your notification center so they're there for later. I think, again, that's really cool. You can also use Siri to play music, search for images. You can also drag and drop from Siri, which I thought was really, really cool. So macOS Sierra is looking really, really impressive. It's looking like an update that I will use. You know, it's got some cool features in there. My two favourite are possibly Universal Clipboard and Siri. I think will probably be the two things that I use the most. But again, there is lots of really little things in there which I think will be really cool. Public beta available in July. Developer preview release today, and available for everyone else in the autumn. Oh, I will be getting the public beta, so I'll be doing a review on the channel for you later in July. I'll also be doing that with the new version of iOS public beta, iOS 10. So keep your eye on the channel for reviews of those. Talking of iOS 10 then, iOS 10 is a great update. You know, it felt to me like one of the older updates. You know, we've had a couple of versions of iOS now which haven't been that exciting, haven't introduced too much new stuff. But you know, iOS 10 did introduce some really cool features, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. So when they were on stage, they announced iOS 10 is going to have 10 big features. Some of them were bigger than others, I have to admit, but all of them were quite cool. The first one that they spoke about was improvements to the user experience, and the major thing here was a redesigned lock screen. The redesigned lock screen does look a lot prettier. It may look a bit Android-esque. Sorry to annoy some Android and Apple fanboys here, but it does look to me a bit Android-esque. The first thing that's new about the lock screen, and it kind of does solve a lot of issues that we've been having as iPhone 6s users. At the moment, when you go to unlock your iPhone 6s and you hold down the home button, even if you want to see the lock screen, because of how quick the Touch ID responds, it gets rid of the lock screen and you're straight into your home screen. You don't actually have time to see the lock screen. They've now changed that in that you can now see the lock screen without touching the home button. You just raise to wake the phone and you can see what's on the lock screen without pressing a button. I like that. They've now also introduced some new notifications, and the notifications also respond to 3D Touch. I always thought that 3D Touch needed some extra features, so I'm glad that they brought this along. You can 3D Touch into the notifications from the lock screen, and this will allow you to respond to notifications there and then. So, for example, if you 3D Touch into a message, you can reply to the message there and then. If you 3D Touch into third-party application like Uber, you can respond to the notification there and then. You know, it's really, really cool. Hopefully the security still works there. I imagine if you had a passcode, it wouldn't look quite as cool, but we'll see. In the notification center, they have introduced a clear all notifications button. Like, where has that been for the last 5-6 years? But it's good that it's finally there. So next up, we have some changes to Control Center. You swipe across in Control Center and you get your music player. And if you swipe across again, you also have access to your HomeKit if you have devices in your house that work with that. There's also widgets on the lock screen now. If you swipe left on the lock screen, the widgets that used to be in Today View are now both on the lock screen and on your home screen when you swipe left in a list there, which is cool. You can also 3D touch on app icons for more info. So for example, if you 3D touch on the music icon, you'll see what's currently playing. If you 3D touch on the email icon, you'll see who the emails are from. Yeah, it's really, really cool. It kind of brings Android-y, widgety feel to iOS, which is something that we definitely were needing. It's not quite the Android widget experience, and I really wish they could bring something a bit like that to iOS, but for what it is, it's good. But yeah, it's overall, the design, it's really, really nice. It's really beautiful looking. I've included some pictures, but you can see from the screenshots, and I'll include a link down below to see some more. You can definitely see that it is a lot better looking, I think. So next up, we have some changes to Siri. The biggest thing here that we always wanted was they're opening Siri up to developers. So what that means is third-party applications can tap into Siri. So for example, if you're on WhatsApp and you say, "Hey Siri, send a WhatsApp to my friend about this," then it will. Or also on stage, they used Uber. They're using Uber a lot in this presentation. Say, "Get me a ride here," and they'll get you a ride there. You can also, for example, search for photos, make payments, do workouts, all through third-party applications in Siri. My question here, because they gave very specific examples and listed types of activities that Siri can do, is this limited? So, is this limited to the tasks that Apple set out in the presentation, or can any developer do anything with Siri that remains to be seen. We'll see. They also mentioned how all of this will work in CarPlay, and if you are looking enough to have a car that supports CarPlay, then that is cool too. Obviously, then you can send your WhatsApps what's driving without looking at a screen. Whether that's safe or not, you can make that decision. The next thing that they spoke about was QuickType, their intelligent keyboard that already exists. They spoke about how they've made a lot of changes to that. They spoke about how context predictions are now a thing, and how the keyboard will now do deep learning. It will do intelligent suggestions based on the wider sentence and not just the previous word. So, for example, the girl played at the park, or the match was played at the stadium. It will look at the previous part of the sentence and work out, okay, what is the most relevant word to end that sentence with, even though the words in the sentence are fairly similar. If someone asks, where are you? It will give you the option to send your current location on the keyboard. It will also suggest relevant email addresses, your calendar availability and scheduling. You can paste recent addresses in there, and it also looks up terms it recognises, so words that you're using frequently will be put there. And also there's multilingual typing as well, so you can switch between languages without having to change the keyboard, which I thought was really cool. Next up, and quite a big update, was photos, changes to photos. They announced here, first of all, you're about to see all your photos on a map. We've kind of had this in iPhoto before, so it's cool that that's now a bigger thing. You'll get a map and you'll see what all photos taken have been on the map, so that's always very useful. They also announced something called Advanced Computer Vision. Now, what that is, it kind of brings facial recognition, scene recognition, object recognition to your iPhone. It's performed locally on the device, so then it will find all photos with water, or all photos with dogs, or all photo with this person, let's call him Bob. All photos with Bob. It's very, very, very clever recognition. We've seen a lot of this on Google Photos in the past, but the difference here is it's performed locally on the device, so no information is uploaded about you to the cloud. They also spoke a lot about this feature called Memories, and what this does is it clusters together photos based on location, the people involved, scenes based on people, time, topics, and it also brings up summaries of these memories as well, which kind of brings out the highlights. It's very cool. And it also shows related memories based on people, based on locations, based on similar scenes. And I think it's very, very cool. And my favourite part of this is at the top of each of these memories. Obviously, memories is its own section in the Photos app now. At the top of each of the memories, there is a video that the Photo app makes for you, kind of highlights of the memories. So if I go on holiday to Barcelona for a few days, it will make me a Barcelona highlights video, and I think that's really, really cool. And I do a lot of videos to myself. It kind of makes my skills a bit less needed, but if I don't want to do the editing, it'll make a video for myself. That is cool. In these movies, you can change the length of the movie, you can change the mood of the movie, and when you change the mood, it changes the soundtrack. Apple did show some really cool examples. Next up, we have some new features in Maps. I'm not really a big Apple Maps user, but these features do look cool. So they have an all-new design. It's proactive, so you slide up from the bottom for suggestions, and it's based on, for example, where you usually go at this time, where you might want to go at this time. It offers categories for nearby locations, so if you tap into restaurants, you'll get Chinese, American, Bangladeshi, all these different categories of restaurant and other locations, which I think is cool. Navigation also got a new design too. Traffic on the route is included now in the navigation mode, so you can see the traffic on your route. It's got a dynamic view, so it will zoom in and out automatically to show you traffic. You can also do it manually yourself to show you the traffic along your route. Whilst you're on the route as well, you can also search along the route for cafes or points of interest. The navigation mode will then work out how much time it will take you to go to these and to get to your final route as well. It will calculate a new time of arrival based on that. All this works on CarPlay. And perhaps the most exciting thing here is that they're opening Maps up to developers, so you're going to get map extensions. So restaurant apps can let you do reservations in the Maps app. Uber and travel apps can allow you to book rides in the Maps app. What I thought would be really cool here, it never happened, but imagine if Google made a Maps extension so you could have Street View in the Maps app. Imagine how cool that would be. Google would never do it, but I wish they would. Next, they spoke about Apple Music, and it was kind of the redesign that we all kind of thought was coming. It's kind of based around clarity and simplicity. It's a beautiful new design language, and they kind of spoke about how music is the hero. The first tab in the app is going to be library. It's going to be clear sections, recently added. When you go into now playing, you're going to have lyrics at the bottom, which is cool. Second tab for you. It's now got some new sections. It's got a discovery mix with songs just for you, your recently played, your curated playlist, and Connect. What I think is cool and a bit strange here is they've moved Connect into there. They obviously realised that Connect isn't so successful. It's a bit like the iTunes Ping of nowadays. So they've moved it into a slightly less obvious place, so you don't really realise how little success it's having. I mean, it's cool when people use it, but not many artists are. Third tab is Browse, so in there you have your new music, your hot albums, your curated playlist, your top charts, and your genres. The fourth is the radios. So basically it's the same app, but it looks a lot different. It's a lot more simple. It's a lot more bold. It's really is a lot more simple, and it's a bit Spotify-esque. It's kind of the redesign that was needed. It's a bit less convoluted. It's a bit easier to understand. Next we had news. News also had an all new design. You now have top stories. You have trending, you have topics you follow, and you have new topics based on what you read. Also featured stories on the home screen. It looks a lot more like a newspaper now, so I think that's cool. It also offers subscriptions, which obviously if news apps can offer paid subscription material here, that'd be good. There's breaking news notifications to your home screen, so when something happens and it's breaking and it's important, you can send a notification to go through to your device, and that'll be useful. The number 8 feature, and we are getting through them, don't worry, is HomeKit. They talked about how they support loads of new accessories, support for new types of accessory. What I found interesting is people are apparently now building homes around HomeKit, so you buy a house and it's already compatible with your iPhone. Be like, hey Siri, turn the lights off, and that's turn off. They also spoke about a HomeKit app for controlling all your appliances, how this will use scenes, so you can say good night and all your lights will go off. You can have different scenes based on different settings for the appliances. The settings are also built into Control Center, which is cool. With the 3D touch notifications that they spoke about, how for example, if you have a doorbell and somebody presses the doorbell, you can, on your phone, if you had a doorbell with a video, you could see the person at the door. That's cool. Apple TV says the hub, so you can control the appliances while you're away from home, and you can also set up geofences, so as you're driving into your drive, the lights come on, that kind of thing. It's been seen before, but again, Apple doing it, it's cool. It also has an Apple Watch app. The number 9 feature was updates to the phone app. The coolest thing I think about this was that they have voicemail transcription, so if you have visual voicemail, they'll now transcribe the voicemail into text voice, so you can read them. That's in beta at the minute. Whether that means that won't work particularly well or not, we'll see. Hopefully it does. You can also install third-party applications which point out spam phone calls, so you know not to answer the phone if it's a spam phone call, which again we've had on Android for a while, but again that's cool. They also spoke about how you're getting a voice over IP API. So when you get a call at the minute on an app that isn't an Apple app, it just goes as a normal app, notification. Now they'll be able to do full screen notifications. So it'll look like a normal phone call. So if you get a WhatsApp call, it'll look exactly the same as if you receive an iPhone call, which again is really cool. The biggest new feature actually pertains to messages. They spoke about how this is the most frequently used app on iOS. There are so many new features here, so I'm just going to try and run through the best ones quite quickly. So the first feature of messages that they mentioned was rich links messages. So when you share links or you share audio or you share videos, it will show a preview of that in the message, like a lot of apps do already, a bit like Facebook Messenger. And I've been saying that quite a bit throughout this section actually. A lot of the updates are quite Facebook Messenger-esque. When you go to share a photo now, you get a live display of your camera next to your pictures, so you can always just take a photo and send it to whoever you want to send it to. Emoji was the next thing that they spoke about. Emoji is now 3 times bigger, and they also have what's called emoji predictions. So if you type a sentence, as you're typing, the keyboard will suggest emojis to put in. Or if you type a sentence out and think, you know what, there's not enough emoji here, you tap the emoji button and it will show you all the words that you can replace with emojis. What I loved here, and I read the quote, "Children of tomorrow will have no understanding of the English language," and it's true. We are now, actively encouraging people to use emojis instead of words. What do you think about that? Leave it in the comments below, but it's cool, it's fun. Then they announced public text messages, so you're able to do transitions messages, you're able to use invisible link in messages, so you'll swipe across on the text and on invisible pictures as well, to show the contents of the message. They also have quick tap backs, which is like thumbs up and happy faces. You tap the message and you can thumb it up. Again, a bit like Facebook. You can send handwritten messages. You can send your heartbeat from your Apple Watch or a smiley face, or you can draw, or you can handwrite a message, either a picture or written text, and you can send that to them. They also have what they're calling full screen effects. I think they have fireworks, they have balloons. This reminds me a bit of Winks on MSN. I feel like we're going back to the MSN days. iMessage is also open to developers now. And developers can also build apps, so they can, for example, include stickers, or they can include other things that you can send to your friends in Messenger. And I enjoy that. So there's now like an iMessage application development. That is cool. In terms of sort of applications that they were talking about that developers might make, we're talking about sort of things such as stickers, things such as group orders, so you can order your food in a group via iMessage. Interactive apps such as JibDab, where you can edit each other's pictures and send videos to each other. And it works across all devices, so again, it's cross-compatible. They haven't yet launched a version for Android, and that was so heavily rumoured. And I was so hopeful that all of my family and friends who are on Android will be able to go iMessage and we can do all this stuff together. It looks like I might be sticking to Facebook and WhatsApp for now. They also spoke about lots of more little features. For example, you can collaborate on notes, there's conversation view in Mail, you can edit live photos, there's split view Safari on iPad. And interestingly, it's come out since, Apple didn't announce this actually at the event, but it's now possible to remove built-in apps from the home screen. So you can finally uninstall the built-in apps, which I think is quite cool, because a lot of people have, particularly like my friends, have like a crap folder on their phone, where they put all the Apple apps that they don't use. It doesn't work for all Apple apps, but it works for a lot of them. So I think that's cool. I do wonder why they didn't mention this at the event. I think it might just be because they're basically saying, here's a load of cool things that we're giving you, but you can get rid of them if you want. It's not very Apple. So I can see why they didn't mention it, but again, it's a very useful feature to have. Apple did also mention a lot of developer features for iOS 10. They mentioned a lot of things to do with privacy. The big thing here was differential privacy, the way in which they can keep the information of individuals private, but can also get information about trending things. So for example, on the keyboard, they can learn what words are now trendy, but they don't give information about the individuals that are using them. I think that's very, very important. So the focus here was really to do with privacy. There were a little other things mentioned, but the kind of emphasis was on the privacy, the end-to-end encryption of things, and how, you know, user data is really, really protected. Again, the developer preview is available today. The public beta is becoming available in the summer, and I will have a review of that on the channel. Everybody can expect it in the autumn. Not available on all devices. They have knocked a few off. So for example, they've knocked the iPad 2, they've knocked the iPhone 4S, the iPad 3 I believe as well, and the iPod Touch 5th generation. There was a bit of confusion in that the website showed some devices, the keynote showed some others. I'll put a picture here of the devices that are supported. But I can understand why they're not supporting all the devices. You know, a lot of these features will be really kind of intensive and processor intensive, and I'd rather the devices not do them than do them but not very well. And, you know, I'd rather have good performance than loads of features that don't work very well. That's my view. So finally, I want to talk about the last thing that Apple announced today, which was Swift Playgrounds. And this is an app which enables young people and all people who just haven't used code before to begin to learn how to code using fun animations. And it does look really, really cool, you know. It's kind of experiencing how to code in a fun animated way. You learn how to control like little characters using code, and I think that's really, really useful. And they did mention how this is free. They're aiming it kind of at the education market. They want kids to be using this to learn how to code, and I really do like commend them for that. I really think that's a really great feature. I might even have a play myself. Never learned to code. I would like to learn to code, so I might do that. So that's it for the recap of my thoughts on the Apple event. Please do leave your comments and thoughts down below. This is the first ever video that I've done just me sat talking to you guys. Please let me know what you thought about that as well. And also let me know down below what you thought was the best thing that Apple announced at the event. Are my opinions right? Are my opinions wrong? Please do let me know. We can have a debate down in the comments down below. Also, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. We do a mixed content now on the channel. We have vlogs, we have views, we have deep chats, we have a lot of different stuff with lots of different people. So if you enjoy it, please do like, comment and subscribe. And I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye.